O'clock, and I'll call the September 26, 2017 Board of Supervisors meeting to order. And we do have a quorum. Mr. Willis will not be here today. He has business out of town. First of all, we have Shelley Kyle, our invocation from Bethlehem Baptist Church. We'd like for her to come on up. And would everyone please stand for our prayer and remain standing for our Pledge of Allegiance.
Let us pray. Most Heavenly Kind Father, as we come before you this morning to call upon your holy name, we thank you, Lord, for this Board of Supervisors meeting this morning. We thank you for each and every one that is here. We ask your blessings upon this meeting, that you will lead, guide, and direct. May everything be done in decency and in order. We pray for fellowship and we pray for cooperation, and that whatever is said and done, that it may be led by your Holy Spirit. In Jesus' name we pray, amen and amen.
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 I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Again, welcome everyone. We'll move right into our agenda. We have citizens' time. Ms. Myers?
Yes, gentlemen, I handed you a handout just so you know where we are on the Spiller School plaque issue, and this is an ongoing informational thing with the communities, and hopefully we can come to a resolution that everybody will be satisfied with. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Myers. That is all that's signed up. Would anybody else like to address the board at this time? Hearing none, I'll close citizens' time. Okay, minutes of the previous meeting, September the 12th, 2017. I entertain a motion to approve.
Chairman, I'll make it motion.
Have a second.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any corrections or changes? Hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Dr. Hausman?
Aye. 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 Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Next item, payment of invoices. Entertain a motion to pay the invoices.
Make a motion to pay the bills.
Have a motion and a second. Any invoice any board member would like to pull out or discuss? Hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Horny?
Aye. Aye. Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Next item is old business. Mr. Byers, anything under old business we need to take care of?
I do not have any matters under old business, sir.
Okay, moving right on into reports. Dr. Perry, you're up. Good morning.
Good morning, gentlemen, Mr. Chair, Vice Chair, members of the board, support staff. Certainly appreciate the opportunity to be here with you this morning. And we will do this very quickly and then provide time if you have any questions for us. We've had a good school year. Things have been going well, and we want to share 5 things with you this morning. And the first thing that we will talk about is our academic growth that we've had. And I know that it would be hard to see this particular chart that I gave you here in your handout here, but I'll send a PowerPoint to you if you'd like to see that. And what we have with this is that the lines or the bars actually show the percentage rate of the students that we've had pass in the school division. So what we've taken is every single child that took an SOL test and then every single child that passed. And so you do the numerator, denominator, and you get the pass rate. So as you can see across the years going back, our pass rates have kind of gone up and gone down. In the last couple of years, however, it's gone up. However, if you look at this line here, this is probably the more important line because actually some of these tests have been harder, some of them have been easier, and so if you just look at the percentage passing, sometimes it doesn't tell you if you've made progress or not. But what you look at is your relationship with the rest of the state. So how did you do in relationship to the rest of the state? So if the test was easier, then you could see how you did against every other school division. So if you look at this particular line here as this goes down, what you'd like to see is this line to be down. This year we were at 10th, last year we were at 13th, and then before then at 59th, and then at one point in time we were actually 108th. So there's 132 school divisions in the Commonwealth. And if you look at this, then what that ends up telling us is that we were 10th this year, which means that 9 other school divisions outperformed us academically. And so we're very pleased with what our teachers were able to do. This one might show you and would help show you just a little bit better. In this particular one, the purple bar would be the 2015 pass rates. The yellow bar would be our pass rates last year. So you can see that we made some significant growth in every single area. And what these numbers represents, for example, in math, this would be 3rd grade math, 5th grade math, 8th grade math, Algebra 1, geometry. So we put all the math scores together and then again just did the simple calculation, numerator, denominator, and get the total pass rate. One of the things that we were very concerned about when we first came in is that our math rate was one of the lowest in the states, and we were real concerned about that piece. And so we put a great deal of focus on math to make sure that we could get our students where they needed to be. And we also understood that a lot of the problems that we were having were in our early grades where students may not be getting some of that good foundational math that was needed to be successful. And so we really altered some of our middle school math, and then we put a great deal of focus on students being able to understand the fundamental pieces. So as you can see, we made a great deal of progress in math, and then also in reading, the fundamental to everything that we do, made some progress in that. Social studies you don't see as much of an impact because really on social studies it's so cut and dry that you teach these particular things. So we're already at a pretty high level there. And then in science, you can see the progress that we made. Actually, in science, we were ranked about 5th in science in the whole state. So only 4 school divisions beat us in that. So we were very pleased with the amount of progress that we made in that particular area. Again, this is another way to show that particular piece that we had in 2007 there. We had a pass rate of 79%. And then you can see that we've grown up to 87% of our kids have passed, and we're down now in state ranking to number 10. And just so that the board would understand what we do with this, is we take every single child that took an SOL test. So if it was grade 3 math, it was geometry, algebra 1, whatever it would be, we put all those kids together, and then we end up seeing how many students passed. And then you get the percentage of the total number of students in Wythe County that passed. Then we look at every other school division in the Commonwealth to see how they did. So all of their students together, and then ended up getting a numerator, denominator, and then getting a pass rate with that. So now this would include all 132 school divisions in the Commonwealth. So if we look at this, our particular pass rate is better than all of them except for 9. And then some of those ones that are in that upper, that's 9 and below, it's actually some of those school divisions with extremely low free and reduced lunch counts. You know, there's one in there, for example, that has less than 5% free and reduced lunch count. There's one, West Point, in there that's spending, and when we looked at that, they were spending, at one point in time, they were spending over $30,000 a kid because they got a real small school division, about 800 kids in that division, very affluent, connected with some, of course, a very affluent neighborhood. So that's kind of who we're competing against with that. But still, for us, with 50% free and reduced lunch, that's pretty impressive. And I think it goes to show the success that our principals and teachers have had in the classroom and the quality of work that our students produce. So, also, we started a program a couple years ago called the Comprehensive Instructional Program, and in that, Region 7 came together. And we decided that instead of everybody coming up with their own lesson plans, let's identify the top teachers in Region 7. And then we paid those top teachers to produce lesson plans and resources and PowerPoints and everything that you would need to implement the curriculum from day 1 to day 180. And so we paid those individuals to put together their lesson plans, and then we put those lesson plans on an online depository. So now a new teacher can come in 3rd grade. She can go to the Comprehensive Instructional Program website. She can log on to that website, And then she can pull up every lesson plan that she needs for language arts, math, science, and social studies. Everything that she needs or he needs would already be online with that, and you can pull up all that information from some of the best teachers that we got in Region 7. Now, it is important to note that this is a Region 7 proprietary piece. It doesn't belong to Jeff Perry. It doesn't belong to any one particular individual. It belongs to the entire region. Any money that we get from this, we actually put back in the program to work on data and to also pay individuals to update the CIP. So we're still paying some teachers to update this and revise it as we go through. We're also paying an individual that's a region curriculum director to kind of handle this for us. That's Dr. Hurt. And so as we go through this now, we actually are up to our 32nd school division. So we have about 19 school divisions in Region 7, and since we started this a couple years ago, we've actually got several more that have joined us. So right now, a quarter of the school divisions in the Commonwealth are using something that we developed in Region 7, which we're extremely proud of that too, is that some folks have looked at our curriculum, thought it was better than what some of the stuff that the state has produced or a textbook has produced, and they've bought into this particular program so that they can implement the curriculum that's fully aligned to the state standards. Now again, any money that we get to this is actually held by Wythe County, and then we've got a steering committee of superintendents that end up giving this money out to various projects to keep the CIP going. So you can see in this that of the 32 school divisions that's involved in the CIP program, we're actually ranked second among those school divisions. Actually, Wythe County was first and we were second in that particular part. So very proud of what our teachers have accomplished and administrators have accomplished, and also very proud of the curriculum that we developed. It's good enough that again, 1 out of every 4 school divisions in the Commonwealth is using our curriculum. So as we look, we also want, well, before we leave that particular, anything on the academic progress?
Anybody have any questions?
You said the teachers can use the lesson plans, can they use their own too, or do they have to use those?
Now, they can use, if you are a successful teacher and you're doing well, then we don't want to interfere with your ability because you've already been effective. You've proven that you have been successful. And so if you have got a track record of being successful, we don't dictate that you use this. Now, if you were struggling as a teacher, then we might say to you, you know, in the past you've not demonstrated, you know, ability to be effective, and we want you to have a curriculum that's better aligned. But we've had, and a lot of our teachers now are picking and choosing what they want from this CIP. So I can do this better with my kids than what the CIP says, and so that's perfectly fine. The only thing that we do ask folks, unless you've got a real strong reason, we have a pacing guide in this so that you need to be teaching this at this point, this at this point, and we say that, you know, you can't wait and teach everything in the last 6 weeks. So if you're teaching American history, there's certain points you need to be hitting throughout the school year or you're not going to get done. And so we ask folks to follow those pacing guides to make sure you cover all the material. But in terms of what you actually do, we don't go in and say on day 50 you should be on lesson 50 because it wasn't designed that way. It's just more of a resource. Because what we ended up finding out is that if you have a beginning teacher in 3rd grade, that beginning teacher has got to create daily lesson plans for math, science, social studies, reading, and writing. And that was just overwhelming for these folks. And so what we decided, let's get one of our best teachers, produce those lesson plans, and then the teacher can spend more time teaching than they do have to spend time planning. Another piece that I'm sure that the board is aware of is dual enrollment. And dual enrollment is the opportunity to earn high school credits while simultaneously earning college credits. Those are transferable to all Virginia colleges. So if you receive dual enrollment credit from our high school, then you can transfer that to any Virginia college. Now, there is sometimes that you have to use those for electives, and you can't use them sometimes for some of those core areas, but you can still transfer all those credits out. The students have opportunities in the governor's school. You have opportunities actually with some students taking courses directly from Wytheville Community College. And you also have students getting credit in the classroom because we have teachers that are certified to teach both in a regular high school setting, and they can also teach at the college level. So that's the best situation for us, because if we do that, then we don't have to pay as much back to the college. We've got a reimbursement rate that is very small in terms of paying them from some administrative costs associated with that. But we just pay our teacher, and then we're done. If we go to Wytheville Community College, then we have to pay the full tuition to do that. Yes, sir.
And what grade level can they start taking dual enrollment?
Normally, it's juniors and seniors. We have some students that are highly advanced that can take some in the 10th grade, but normally we set things up for junior and senior, and there's also some criteria that colleges have that won't let you get started much earlier than that. But we do have some kids that are pretty bright and kind of have an exemption to that particular part. Last year, our students earned over 1,000 credits in Wytheville Public Schools. So our juniors and seniors last year earned over 1,000 credits while they were still in high school. And I didn't change this number, but actually the successes last year, we had 22 students that actually earned an associate's degree or some type of certification over at Wytheville Community College in May. And then they came back in 2 weeks and then graduated from high school. So a lot of our students are actually earning now an associate's degree from Wytheville Community College and then coming back in a couple of weeks and graduating from high school, which I think is a tremendous benefit for them because the majority of that is free to those particular students. There is no reason why a student in the Wythe County Public Schools could not graduate as a sophomore in college. So as a parent, when you send them to school, they've got enough credits to be a sophomore, and I know that several, and I think Mr. Bear is probably a good example of this, his son took advantage of this and graduated with many credits and would be able to then enter and have a year or two down under your belt already. Any questions about the dual enrollment part?
On the associate's degree, what type of associate degree? I mean, just sort of a general transfer type thing?
And it kind of depends on the particular student too about what they want to do. You know, if they actually pursue something maybe in criminal justice, or if they pursue something in some of the career and technical parts. Now, what we are trying to line up, and we're having some success with this, is this year we had our precision machinery. The guy that we've got teaching that now is dually certified, so he can teach college credits. We're trying to get Mr. Fogelson actually certified to be able to teach also, so our welding would be. Our nursing program is already in that situation, and our criminal justice is dual enrollment. So if we get this lined up, what we're hoping to do is that students can take a couple of those preliminary classes through us, knock out some of those core educational classes, and then you can graduate with an associate's degree in any of those areas.
One of the things I'm trying to talk my granddaughter into, don't know if I'll be successful, she'll graduate with a lot of, dual credit
Right.
classes. And of course, at WCC, you have, 5 semesters that you can go tuition free?
Yeah.
Now, of course, she wants to transfer, to a 4-year school, but it looks to me like it's such a wonderful opportunity for them to use those, those 2 years to, to take the rest of the classes that they need to transfer, but also to take a program that gives them a skill.
Yeah.
I know several years ago, I happened to visit, Hershey School in Hershey, Pennsylvania. Of course, a private school.
Right.
But one of the things that they do, doesn't matter if a kid is going to college or military or what, everybody graduates with a skill. I certainly know, that everybody has to graduate with some type of, technical
CTE,
skill. CTE,
they do.
Yeah. But is that a possibility that kids can, young people can use that 5 semesters to get a skill and then go ahead and transfer into?
Certainly, and that's actually the purpose of what we're trying to do. We, at one point in time, we just had students take whatever they want to take. And it was actually a race among a lot of parents that my child has more college credits than your child does. And we reeled that back in and say that we want the students to actually graduate with a purpose. We have what we call a purpose-driven curriculum. We want you to take stuff that has an end to it. So we want you to have something in mind, whether it's criminal justice, whether it's welding, whether it's precision machinery, whether it's nursing. So we want you to leave with a skill.
But are we emphasizing that for those kids that also are going to go to a four-year school? I know, I guess one of my concerns is that, the kids graduate with a lot and they say, well, I'm going to go in as a sophomore or I'm going to go in as a third year or whatever. Okay, so they graduate from college at 20. It's not as easy getting a job or starting, build a career at 20 as it is, even a year later at 21 or 22 when you normally graduate.
Right. And the next slide may help you a little bit with that, because
Okay.
we do have some parts that answers that specific question. So, but we are talking to students right now that we know that about 70% of the jobs that are out there right now don't require a four-year degree. And so if students are actually looking for a job, they'd be much better off.
And a lot of people with a four-year degree are coming back to get a two-year degree. My point is, maybe we could give it to them first.
And let me speak to that here in just a moment, because that is a critical part. So our academic accomplishments, first of all of our schools are fully accredited. So we're real proud of that and real excited about that particular part, and that's not always been the case. So 4 of our schools achieved 90% or higher in all core subject areas. So we've got 13 schools, but what I want to mention with this is that 4 schools had 90% or better of their kids passing all the tests in math, science, social studies, and English. And if you think about that 13% of our students are special ed, then that means that 9 out of every 10 kids or better are passing every single subject at 90% or better. So I think that's a pretty impressive part to look at there. We were ranked second out of the 28 school divisions, and actually now it's up to 32. Overall gains were made in 4 out of the 4 subject areas since 2015, so we've gone up, as I showed you in that chart. We're also proud of this particular part that over 1,200 of our kids passed with an advanced score, and we had about 129 perfect scores. So not only are our at-risk kids doing better, but then also our advanced kids are doing extremely well, and we are ranked 10th in the Commonwealth. So when we talk about ranked 10th in the Commonwealth, again, all students taking all tests, and then we compare ourselves to the other 132 school divisions, and so only 9 school divisions have outperformed us academically. And that would be a great piece, I think, as individuals come in and that they're looking for Wythe County as a place to start up a business or to raise a family. We can tell them that you can go to 9 other school divisions in the Commonwealth who has a better academic program, but there's only 9 other school divisions that we're one of the top 10 producing school divisions in here. Dr. Hasman, this is one of the things that you were potentially talking about, is that we have got a great focus and push right now on career and technical. We know that from every bit of research that's out there right now is that better than 70% of the jobs are going to require less than a 4-year degree. A lot of these students, probably 10 years ago, we told everybody you had to get a 4-year degree. If you don't get a 4-year degree, you've got no chance. And students actually listened to us. Now, unfortunately, they went out and their degrees that they earned were not always matched up with what the market and what the job opportunities were. And so right now, we're talking to guidance counselors and really getting them to talk to parents and students about looking at career and technical opportunities. We also talk to parents and students about the same kind of thing. We're actually trying to rebrand the career and technical program, because a lot of folks would think that the career and technical programs are for the kids who can't do anything else. It's for the kids who are in trouble. It's for the kids that can't do math and science. And we're trying to get folks to understand that's where the jobs are. And actually, you can go get a 4-year degree, you can teach, and we start you out in the mid-30s, or you can get a job welding and end up in the high 80s, high 90s, depending on where you're going. And so we're trying to get folks to understand that you could actually go over to our Career and Technical Center, end up getting a degree that is free of charge, and a lot of times you can leave our program with a state licensure or certification, and you're good to go when you step out from our schools. The new programming that we've introduced welding, which has been an extremely popular program. We actually had to turn some students away this year from that, so we're looking about expanding the welding program. Precision machinery is another important part, especially to our area. We've got a lot of folks around here that need that particular skill, and so we're trying to fit a particular niche that our community needs. Criminal justice is another program that we started out with, a year-long program, and that is a dual enrollment also. So these 3 areas, we've actually are working on dual enrollment, and again, what we hope to do is that students can get high school credit plus college credit at the same time with that. We already have our nursing program, which is probably our most popular program that's over there, and we've had to turn kids away from that program also. And as all of us get a little bit older and are going to need more health care, then it just seems like the need for medical caregivers are going to be increased dramatically, and so we're trying to fill those particular needs. Last year, we had 237 students that were completers. And what that means with that is that we had 237 high school students that actually completed a series of coursework to get some type of certification or some type of licensure. And Dr. Housen, this goes back to a little bit of what you were talking about, is that we want students not to just take a piece here and a piece there and a piece here, but pick something and then follow it all the way through. And so 97% of our students actually completed some kind of career and technical program, which we felt real good about. Credentials, we gave out over 1,000 credentials. So whether it was in a cosmetology, nursing, whether it was in precision machinery, whatever it would be, we had over 1,000 credentials that we gave out last year. Also, you now have to have some type of career and technical completion to graduate from high school. So if you don't have a series of a completed set, then you can't get a high school diploma. And we have some school divisions that are struggling with that mightily to get a student to be able to finish up with a credential. We actually had 100% of our students graduate that had some type of credential, some kind of certification. So our CTE program, I think, is doing a great job. Now, the other part that I just wanted to mention, we actually have a Microsoft licensure program that we have, and with that, you can leave and be certified to work on any of the Microsoft Office programs, and that would end up costing you a certain amount of money. And what we determined is that last year we gave out about $24,000 worth of free education to these students, that if they would have went someplace else after they graduated from high school and went to college and gained that certification, they would have had to pay that amount of money to get that particular certification, and we do it free right here in school. We're actually talking with Wythe Community College, and we're looking at some of the local businesses about what do we need to focus on more. There's always this piece about HVAC that seems to be a major occupational need out there. The biggest problem with the HVAC piece is it's so costly to get started. The purchase of the equipment and the purchase of everything to get all that going is just incredible. And we've lost a great deal of Perkins money in the last couple of years, so it's hard to retool for that particular part, but certainly that's a need. Cybersecurity is another piece that seems to be on the front burner for everyone right now, so that's a particular piece. And then we've talked to a couple folks about auto body. That actually Volvo was trying to increase some of the things that they were going to do, and we're going to try to do some painting and do some of those kind of things, and they were wanting to partner maybe with some of us some of the school divisions to actually train students to do that so that they could go straight out of high school and go into the auto body piece. So career and technical is a piece that we're pushing heavily because we think that's where most of the jobs are. And still, we want students to go to college and to get that 4-year degree because there's going to be some of that, but we're also trying to educate students on being smart about those degrees. That some of those degrees that you get may not be a good employment piece, and they're going to come back home to us and live with us if they're not careful. And so we're really pushing the career and technical part.
Well, I'm assuming the problem for kids that are going to a 4-year school, a lot of them, the graduation credentials are in something like PowerPoint,
It would be in
Excel and-
business.
yeah,
A lot of
things like
that would be
yeah.
in business, something of that nature, yeah.
I guess if it's a suggestion, I
Yes.
don't know, or maybe, is, and I understand that, we're putting more emphasis on it at the secondary level. But if we could convince kids that a 4-year degree and with the setup that we have in Wythe County, a 4-year degree and a 2-year degree with a skill from WCC is not mutually exclusive. It may take you, 4 years to get through college. Well, whoop-de,
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't know if that's a possibility, but if guidance counselors could be kind of educated on that, if somebody wants to go into, teaching,
Yeah.
for instance, you could go to WCC, get a degree in medical coding, which means that you could probably work from home and do things, because I don't know if you know or not, but teachers sometimes have second jobs.
Yeah, we do.
And it would be, that's just what I would request, is the guidance counselors talk to those kids that are going to 4-year school and tell them the great thing that we have with WCC. Excuse me, I didn't turn that off. That's just,
And we agree with you totally on that. Now, we did talk to guidance counselors last spring, because if you don't talk to them in the spring, then students already sign up for things. The biggest problem that we're having with this right now is with parents and students having that old paradigm of vocational school being for anybody that can't do anything else. And so we're really trying to rebrand that thing about some exciting, neat kind of opportunities. But parents and students are a little bit resistant about taking that. Now, the schedule is pretty full, for a kid that's going to go into those upper ones, to go to a major 4-year school. There's not a lot of room in the curriculum for that, but there is enough room that you can pick up an associate's degree. But we got to get parents convinced that's okay. Because right now, we had a conversation with a parent about your student's doing fine, they've got a ton of credits, they're only 1-2 classes away from getting certification in this, and they just didn't want the kid to finish that up. They didn't see the merit of that. And it's kind of sad, because this kid loved that particular piece in auto body, but they wanted him to go ahead and take some of the more advanced classes. And
Let's talk about education and vocational. Now, technical is a broad spectrum.
it is.
Vocational is more focused. And just take one part that is ongoing and has been forever, and there is a shortage of the building trades.
Mhm.
You don't have a program that goes into any kind of advanced electrical.
Correct.
You teach people how to wire houses, how to wire commercial buildings. We don't have a plumber program. Both of those pay more money, and it's a selling job.
Mhm.
How about you turning your juices on and start writing something in the paper about how valued these trades are?
Actually, I did.
And college is the same way. You get a kid out of tech, he don't know anything about how to work.
Mhm.
But he expects to start at $80,000 a year.
Everybody wants to be the brick foreman and not carry the brick.
That's good stuff.
So, now, I have actually written articles to the paper, and I've actually sent information home to parents about the need to look at some vocational and technical training. So,
Building trades, you've got good models here in the New River Valley. One teacher can teach all the carpenter trades if he's a carpenter. You don't need to be an academic. He needs to know how to put a house together. You can do the same thing by having some retired electrician get certified and has the ability to communicate, to teach them how to be not only technical electricians, but how to put the thing together. Schematic's not worth a lot when he's wiring your house or my house. You want somebody that knows how it works. A lot of these are academic with hands-on experience. But when we say things, there's just barely enough time to put this in. We all sit here and claim to be an agricultural community. What are we doing to help promote FFA, which I think is really the most important place that they get any civic training now? I guess you were a member coming from the country. Were you ever in FFA?
No, sir, not an FFA.
Well, I'm sure some of these people have been. Their best thing is not how to feed a calf or milk a cow. It's teaching them how to be good citizens and have a good civic approach, and we've lost that, and I believe you agree with that.
I don't know that I agree with that 100% because I think we've got several programs that still instill those particular pieces.
Where are our volunteers? Where are our young leaders that want to be part of something, want to volunteer? Gary deals with it by being his other job, but they're not out there, and that's all of our faults.
It is. I think it's an entire society piece because I think we have several individuals who fail to model that particular thing that we express. You know, do you get out and do you volunteer for civic organizations? Do you volunteer to coach Little League? Do you volunteer, you know, at the church or wherever? And so I'm not sure that you had a lot of questions in that or a lot of statements in that, that particular piece. And I do think if we have what's called a interest-driven curriculum. We got to have students that's interested in the curriculum, and we are pushing and trying to get parents to realize that some of these vocational and technical opportunities are the best way to go. But again, they're very resistant to do that. We do have an industrial manufacturing class, and we don't fill that particular class up. And we've actually looked at electrical, and that electrical piece actually requires a great deal of math. And a lot of our students who have that mathematical tendency are not the ones that we're getting to go into this program. And we're trying to change that because you can actually go into that program and make a very good living being a certified electrician. Again, though, it's part of what we're dealing with is that our parents don't see that as the best option for their students for some reason.
As an educator, can you tie the STEM concept to technical and vocational?
Certainly.
So that seems like to me it's a perfect marriage that they can go wherever they want to go.
Mm-hmm.
They can get a job making $80,000 a year on commercial work, or they can go on to college and get out and make $40,000 a year if they can get a job.
And I don't think, Ms. Chev, that you and I are in disagreement on what you've said with that, because actually I think much of what you've said, I think that we're actually, as a leadership team and as I've shared with our board, we want students to engage in those things. The biggest thing is getting, and we are beginning to see a change in that just a little bit as people see that a lot of these four-year degrees that they're getting are not as beneficial as they thought. And they're going back, as Dr. Hausman said, they get that four-year degree and then they got to come back and get trained in something that get them a job. And
Well,
so,
with management, Dr. Berry, does the one-on-one part of this come from your guidance people? Mine really was a question that, do we have any long-range planning to get there?
we do.
And is the guidance people, which I have no idea how many people you pay for that role, but are they doing their job at the lowest level to introduce the idea? Getting the seed planted is an important part.
Yeah. Actually, we require every parent and every student now to produce an academic plan in the 7th grade. And so that long-term planning that you're talking about now, for us to think that any seventh grader probably has a clear idea of what they're going to do when they graduate is probably not realistic. But what we do is that we sit down with every parent and every child in seventh grade, and they produce an academic plan. And so we talk to parents about, where do you want your students to be? Where do you want your child to be when they graduate? And so we talk to them about, and we actually have a inventory test that they take to see, what they are the best at. And with that, we end up telling them, if you want to do this, then you got to take these particular courses. If you want to do that, you got to take those particular courses. So in terms of long-term planning, we do actually sit down with students early in middle school, and then we talk to them about what you're going to do. And then we don't try to get down to the specific piece, because we know that probably kids are going to make a choice. But if it's in the medical field, if it's in, if it were to be in the welding or machining or farming, whatever it would be, is that we try to then work with students on taking a set of courses that would put them there, as opposed to just taking whatever they want to take and then hoping it all works out.
Well, I'm going to try to get quick here and finish. But
Okay.
when you say farming, that doesn't mean they have to feed cows and make hay.
Mhm.
There's thousands of other jobs out there that are agricultural.
Yeah.
Agricultural is the correct word instead of farming. And, an ag degree from Tech, take a little bit more math and you can be a PE. That's a shortcut to being a professional engineer. I don't happen to agree with it. I don't want those guys building a 40-story high-rise apartment, because they're really getting the basic education in ag engineering.
Mhm.
That's an academic thing
Right.
that I don't agree with. But if we can introduce the idea, and at the seventh grade level, we know, just as you said, most kids want to be a policeman or a fireman
Or football.
or NFL. They
Yeah.
all think they're that good, and their parents sort of encourage that because it's a big check at the end. But if you focus on vocational at that early age, you said you have a seventh grade program. Tim and I have heard that in Southwest Virginia, there's a very low percentage of students that have anybody at home. I think you know that number.
Yeah, I think that actually 55% of the students that we have in our school system is being raised by grandparents. That's a pretty alarming piece.
Well,
So-
the number we heard out in Southwest, at what meeting were we at, that it was somewhere like 31% of the kids had a parent involved in their life.
Yeah.
And that might have been one of the Coalfield counties, but to rely on these folks to help that kid plan its future, we need a lot more help from the public sector, being the school board.
And we do. We actually sit down and we try, and we're not successful with every particular student, but we do put a lot of effort into trying to get them to think through some things about what they want to be and where they want to go. So, again, I don't think we're in disagreement in a lot of things. I think that it's just a matter of getting a lot of our folks to rethink what education is about and understanding that sometimes these 2-year degrees is the exact way that they need to go. Now, then we got all the other problems associated with work ethic and some of those other kind of things. But, because I think a lot of our kids would be brick masons if they could be the foreman and tell folks what to do, but that mixing the mortar and carrying the bricks.
Well, I hate to keep beating this horse, but you come back to the same answer. Good civic, I guess you had civics in school.
I did.
And I
Yes,
had
sir.
it. Y'all moved it somewhere else now, I think, and we also had to have government.
We have government.
When I went to school.
Mhm.
We had health, and those were clear-cut academic goals. But if we can get kids to think, we all say they spend more time at home than they do with y'all. But if it's not happening at home, there's one hope left, and that's during the school day to introduce that seed of new ideas.
Mhm.
With something like FFA and their work ethic, I'll guarantee you, that most kids that go through FFA and participate have a good work ethic.
I wouldn't disagree with part of that, yes.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, on the capital improvement program, just give you an update on that, where we are with that. The board did select an A&E firm. We did go with OWPR out of Blacksburg. They are very familiar with the Wythe County Public Schools already. They do have some preliminary plans, as they did the first study on the renovation of the high school. They already had some preliminary work, but that was not down to the design piece and the schematic piece, but they were familiar with that to some degree. Right now, what we told them to do is that we wanted them to focus on the mechanical, the electrical, and plumbing, because in a lot of cases, that MEP work can be 50-60% of the total job when you're talking about a renovation part. So right now, we're getting them to work on seeing what it would take on the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing, and to give us a cost estimate on that. Now, we've talked to various groups and got different numbers from them, and actually when all of the A&E firms came in and interviewed with us, we didn't ask them for a number, because all we were asking for is qualifications and certifications and those when we interviewed, but everybody came in with a number, and those numbers ranged from what we kind of thought it would be to some numbers that we thought were very high. But we want to get a better idea of what this MEP is going to cost us. Scope of the work right now, we are looking at a 4-pipe chiller system. We think that probably that's the most conventional, and probably, even though I know that you probably feel like there's some other systems out there, this is something we can work on. This is something that we can maintenance, and something that's proven to be kind of successful. We are going to actually be able to repurpose the boilers. They're only a couple years old, so the boilers that we have down there right now, we can reconfigure those and be able to use those, we think. We are talking about a total plumbing upgrade, so we'll replace all the lines. We were required by the state this year to do lead testing in all the schools, and as we went through that, we did see in some of our older schools, we did have some high levels of lead. Now, fortunately, those appear to be in the drinking fountains themselves and not in the pipes. So anytime that we found a lead in the water, we shut that fountain down immediately, and then we'll replace that. But the good thing is it doesn't seem to be a systemic piece in the lines. It just seems to be right there in it. But in our new ones, we've not had anything. So anything that we've remodeled or anything that's a newer school, we've not seen any lead in any of those. And then a total electrical upgrade, we would have to do that. And then the waste upgrade, we want to make sure that underneath the slab that we either reroute the plumbing. We certainly don't want to dig that up, because if we had to do that, then we'd have to go through the terrazzo floor, which we couldn't replace with anything any better than that. So we'll try to reroute the waste piece, but we certainly don't want to end up putting all new lines in and then not have the main line going out to the sewer line, now having it up to standards. And then add a couple of restrooms. We were at a volleyball game the other night, and a gentleman came in and wanted to use the bathroom. We had to send him upstairs to go use the bathroom at George Wythe, and we have that in that particular situation. So we would add a couple of restrooms and then make sure all those would be ADA compliant. And so as we look through this, these are the things that we're kind of asking them to do right now, is to get those MEP numbers. And once I get those, then we'll share it with the Board of Supervisors and go from there. And at this point, a lot of our efforts and a lot of our work would actually start in the spring. So we're kind of getting some of this done and then being ready to go in the spring when the major construction piece would take place, because there's very little we're going to be able to do right now as we go through this. So, questions about this?
Yeah, you brought up mechanical. You folks directed them what you wanted.
Yes, sir.
All I'd ask is that you give a fair hearing to a 21st century solution. That's not hard to work on. You know, I knew how to drive a team of horses in a wagon, but I fell in love with a tractor.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what are y'all fueling with?
Well, we would have electricity and...
No, what's doing the boilers?
I assume that's probably gas or, I assume it's gas or electricity.
Well, does anybody know? What do you pay a bill to? Y'all buy a big gas bill or a big electric bill?
Mr. Hill, I mean, that's a piece on the specific part. I mean, we pay electricity, we pay one bill for the county all the way through. So,
Well,
one gas
My
bill.
question here is, if you found out what is fuel in George Wythe High School, at least look at the economy of putting in, Mitsubishi makes it, Siemens makes it, because it makes total sense, Dr. Perry. It's a closed system. You don't lose anything. You just keep heating and cooling the same material.
Mhm.
You've got a model that.
If you will send me the information on that, I'll make sure that OWPR looks at that particular piece. But I know that we did look at a wide range of things a couple years ago when I built a school, and we even looked at geothermal, and we looked at solar panels, and the energy savings associated with that and the payback of that was.
Neither one of those touches that. This is a system that's been around forever. We talk about, let's go look at this school, look at that. You know that we put that in J.I. Burton, and you know the people out there, the principal will tell you they love it, that they're way ahead in their savings. Their projected savings was to pay it back. And according to what numbers tell them, which we know how numbers are, they're way ahead of what they were supposed to save. And all I've asked is that you look at it, because it's a money matter, and it's a life cycle matter of how long this system will last.
And I did talk to the superintendent about that.
But you didn't talk to the principal.
Well, the superintendent was not as enthusiastic, but it is a situation there that I think anytime you put any system in, for some folks it works well and some folks it may not work well. So it's a piece so that we have certified A&E people, they are certified engineers, they have experience doing this, and so we will get them to look at various options. All right, so as we go through the capital improvement plan, we'll be working with them, and we'll be getting some cost estimates on what it would be for the mechanical and electrical and plumbing. On the enrollment budget piece, I know this is something that the board's always interested. This is a little history about our budget number history. So in 2015, we budgeted for 4,115. 2016, it was 4,050. 2017, 4,020. If you look at number 2, that's actually the actual number that we had is in 2015. We dropped down to 4,081, so that year we were about 34 students less than what we had budgeted for. In 2016, we actually had went up 14. So last year, we actually had a pretty good year and had several students come into the school division. In 2017, we're down about 16 students right now. Now, our big number actually happens in March. We have that October count, which is important, but then we have that March count, which is also important. So at this point in time, we're actually making adjustments to the budget, and of course, we're not going to ask the Board of Supervisors for any additional money in that. We're going to absorb that deficit that we would have with that. And we're making non-personnel cuts in that, so material supply, travel, some of those kind of things we're looking at to try to absorb that particular student enrollment loss. And actually, we're in a little bit better shape than a lot of other school divisions because we are, even though it's lower than what we anticipated, it's not dramatically lower than what we anticipated. And we know that March can be better or worse, but we're hoping that things have kind of stabilized, and we do tend to kind of pick up a couple students as we go through. So, questions about the enrollment numbers?
How much does the state pay per student?
It's a little bit different, and that's hard to calculate to a certain degree, but you can kind of think anywhere in the neighborhood of $6,000 to $8,000 to $9,000, somewhere in that neighborhood, because each year the allocation changes, and it does change just a little bit with some of the federal money if it's a special ed kid or if it's a title kid or some of that, but somewhere in the neighborhood of $6,000 to $9,000. somewhere in that neighborhood. So, when we lose 16 kids, that can end up getting to be some money very quickly on that.
Dr. Perry,
Yes,
this
sir.
is not a bar.
Uh-huh.
I've worked for West Point Schools. I know a lot about that school system. They normally have between 80 and 100 kids that transfer to that system and pay tuition.
Mm-hmm.
It's the driving distance of Williamsburg, it's in driving distance, and from multiple counties. Dr. Jeff Smith was, you might know Jeff,
Mhm.
was superintendent there for years. They come there because of the quality. And if we're the top 10 in the state, we ought to be drawing kids from the surrounding counties wanting to come here for our Sterling package.
Mhm.
That's why West Point. Now, the other thing, West Point is funded by one big manufacturer that makes the whole community smell bad. They got a big paper mill and they pay all the taxes. But the excellence of their education is that somebody pays the bill and they only operate 3 schools. Superintendent don't need a car. He can walk to all 3 of them or see them out of his office. Now, we're scattered over a great big area, I understand it, and the
We are.
economy, the scale is not the same. But they do have an excellent education system there and have had for years. And people pay to come to school there, like paying not near as much as a private school, but they charge tuition for out-of-county students to get to come there and get the education. And can we do that? If somebody wanted to come here, do they come free just for what the state pays? Or are you prepared to say it costs
Yeah.
so much a year to come here?
No, actually, right now, what we have is we have what's called open enrollment in Wythe County. So if you want to come here, you actually are able to come here free. The only thing that we do is that in some of our areas, and Speedwell is a good example of this, is that we're right now at 26, 27 students in kindergarten. If a student from Carroll County wanted to come in, we would deny them because I'd have to get another teacher. And another teacher would cost me, $50,000, $60,000 after benefits. And so the money that that student brought in from the state is not going to be worth what it would, or be as much as it would cost us. So we deny when we get to that number, but that's very infrequent because normally we can spread them out. And then they bring the state money in, which is normally enough. So open enrollment in the county, and the only stipulation that we have is that if it costs another teacher, if it costs an aide or something of that nature, then we deny enrollment.
Well, wouldn't Sheffey and Fort Chisholm be a better example of Carroll County kids, how many you have?
We actually have several of those students, and actually there's a part of the Sheffey area there in Carroll County that we actually run a bus through, and then there's part of that that's in Wythe County that they run a bus to just simply because of the historical allegiances of the folks in that particular area. But we do pick up several students from Carroll County.
I left out Jackson. You gotta have some Carroll County kids
We
in
do.
Jackson.
We actually do. And in a lot of those areas, we actually have students from other counties almost in every one of our schools.
Do we have an actual count of how many out-of-county students?
We did, Mr. Reed, I did look that up 2 years ago. I don't know what the current number they are, but the thing that we do is that we're very focused on those classrooms where we're needing another teacher. And if we've got to add another teacher because we got one out-of-county kid in, that's where we begin to make a denial on that. But
And speaking as experience as a principal, you don't always keep the kids that you take.
we just actually sent 2 back because they were attendance problems, they were discipline problems, and with those particular ones, then we reviewed it and the principal said, you're no longer welcome. Because when they come in, we tell them, you got to be attendance, not attendance problem, not a discipline problem, and not an academic problem.
Well, as we've seen reduction for the last 15 years from legislature, is this really feasible to have a open enrollment problem today like it was profitable 15 years ago? Have we took a look at the business side of that? And you gave an answer, was it 6,000 to 8,000? I understand that fluctuation, but I think it needs a business look at it. Can we afford to do that like we did 15 years ago? Is the state paying enough to make it profitable, especially if you're running buses?
Yeah, we actually, right now, we did run the numbers on that again. That was 2 years ago, and we were making money. Because if you've got 2 third-grade teachers, and they've got 20 in one class and 19 in another class, and you add another kid, they're not going to take any more electricity, they won't take another teacher, they're not going to take any more cafeteria food, any of those kind of things. And so, as long as you don't have to add another staff member to support that, I wouldn't say it's free money, but it's free money. And then, in terms of riding a bus, what we do in most of those situations, you've got to bring that student to a existing bus stop that we're not going to go out of our way and pick those kids up. So, and that is actually an agreement that we have with most of the school divisions, that we're not going to try to go in and try to take kids out of your school division. Now, if they come to our bus stop, we'll do that. And there's some places where we do right there along the county lines that for years we've gone over into another county and picked kids up. And so we try not to increase that area, just to try to keep good friends among school divisions.
We don't proselytize.
We don't. We don't try to do missionary work in that kind of piece. We do. If they want to come over, we'll take them.
Well, there's some school divisions, depends on how good athletes they are. They might venture further into another district.
Well, we're more excited if you have an advanced score in SOL, and if you can run a 4.240, we're more excited about those kind of pieces. But in all seriousness, we do look at that, and we look at it every single year, especially that Speedwell is one place that we look at constantly, because we did have to deny a kid last year because we had 2 kids that were going to come in to kindergarten, and it would have caused us to have another teacher. So then you get $16,000 and you have to pay out $60,000 for a teacher, and it just...
Well, I'm in the growing our county and having citizens move here and growing our school system that way instead of having people from other counties come in.
Yeah, we definitely want folks to come in, and that's part of what we're doing too on the capital improvement program too. And you talked a little bit earlier about that piece. I think academically, it would be hard, to compete with us. Facility-wise, there's a couple things there that we need to do probably, and we've shared that with you guys before, so we won't go in that again today. But parents do sometimes evaluate the quality of a school division just on the facilities and not necessarily on the inner piece. New Horizons, we talked to you about this before. I want to just give you an update on that. The purpose of New Horizons, that's kind of an alternative school for us. In the alternative school, we're really focused on credit recovery. And what credit recovery is that we've got a 17-year-old high school student. They've got 2 high school credits, and they've got to have 22, 24 to graduate. They're 17 years old, and so the likelihood of that student graduating is very slim because they just got too many credits that they've got to recover. And so what we've done with New Horizons, we focused on credit recovery. We also want to increase the graduation rate. We want those students graduating from high school. And we also want to refocus struggling students who are just not doing well in that traditional classroom. We want to give them something different. So the successes that we've had, and we had about 24 students in there last year. We did increase the attendance rate. Those kids are coming to school now because they enjoy coming to school. The teachers we've hand-selected to work with at-risk students. We also increased graduation rate. That we had 11 students who were not going to graduate that actually graduated the last year. They didn't have enough credits. They had already talked about dropping out, and we actually ended up getting those kids to hang on and to graduate with a high school diploma and with a career and technical degree. Also, we've increased the number of credits. Those kids earned 246 credits last year. So that's a pretty amazing kind of thing that we were able to get high school credits over almost 250 credits. 66 of those kids took, or of those 24 kids, they passed 66 SOL tests last year, which some of them had never passed a single SOL test in their entire life. So they were able to pass that SOL test, which was critical to graduation, because there's a couple tests that you've got to pass before you can graduate, like the writing test. You've got to pass the writing test to be able to do that. Also, very few discipline referrals. We had a couple kids that got in trouble, but really and truly these kids went over there, matched up with the teacher, wanted to do well. The other part that's allowed us to do, of those 24 kids, when they were in a regular high school, they consumed an enormous amount of time from the regular classroom teacher, because those were the kids that were never engaged, that were always causing problems, having to do makeup work for, were always struggling. We now allow those teachers just to work with the other students in the classroom, and we found a more effective place for that. Also, we think that we've increased investment. We actually had a parent and actually it was a grandparent, brought her granddaughter in over the summer and wanted to talk to me. And normally when parents want to talk to the superintendent, normally it's not a good thing. So I was kind of dreading walking up to the front, but she started out by saying, I just want you to know that New Horizons saved my granddaughter's life. That actually this particular kid had at one point in time attempted suicide when she was in the middle school, and she was just so frustrated with everything. She actually graduated from New Horizons, actually graduated with a degree and was going on to college and was just real excited about life. And she said she'd struggled all through her high school or all through school because she didn't really feel like people cared about her, they didn't take a particular interest in her. But when she got to New Horizons, she really felt these people took the time, the programming was better, it was more aligned, and she just really felt that things were really well suited for her, and she said that it actually had saved her life. So New Horizons we actually have over in the Career and Technical Center, and we focus on some of those core academic pieces of math, science, social studies, and English, and then we actually try to connect them with a career and technical piece right down the hallway so that those students graduate with some kind of skill. And we've had, again, a great deal of success with that. So I've taken a lot more time than what I wanted to, but
I just
questions?
have one quick question on the credit recovery. Are y'all able to waive the clock hour requirements?
Actually, we did get some leniency this year on that, on being an alternative school, and actually, even for regular high school students now, there's a waiver in there on the seat hours, if that's what you're talking about.
Right. So I mean, kid comes in and needs a bunch of credits. If they've got to be in each one for 140 hours, it seems overwhelming. But if they can take the class and pass the curriculum, looks to me like.
And that's exactly what the state ended up doing. So they
Okay.
finally said that you don't have to sit there for a pre-described number of hours. If you're ready to take the SOL test or another standards-based test and you can pass it, if you can get it done in 100 hours, then it's as good as being in
So
there at
it's
200.
more self-paced.
It is. A lot of this program is self-paced, and what we do is that we have a program that actually delivers the curriculum on a computer. Students will go through that program, and then we've got teachers monitoring them through that process and helping them when they struggle. And so then they take different modules, and as they take those modules and are successful, then when we feel like they're ready, we go ahead and test them and then move them on. Because some of these kids, they'd be 25, 26 years old before they
Yeah,
graduated, and that's just, they're not going to do that.
Yeah.
Any more questions? Dr. Perry, thank you
Well-
for your update.
If I can do of anything else, certainly let us know. We're more than glad to come over at any particular point in time and provide an update, and we do appreciate the support that you guys have given us, and we continue to try to do what we can to help out students. So, thank you,
Thank
gentlemen.
you.
And we're going to leave right now, even though we'd love to stay, we're going over to Jackson to do bus tours. We'll go over there and do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, treasurer's report. Ms. Gwynn. Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. I'm going to add to Dr. Perry's presentation just a little bit. I attended the Technology Center graduation back in the spring. If you've never done that, it's, I thought it was neat to see because I was very impressed at, as they announced each student in the program, they announced each, I'm not going to use the right term, but I guess credential that they had earned in that class, whether it was in auto mechanics or it was in cosmetology or it was in nursing. But it was really neat to see and hear how successful those students have been in that program. But that's a graduation that I really encourage you to attend because it was very interesting to see. I'd never gone before, and I will go back, and I've actually been invited to tour the Technology Center. Just haven't had time to do that and probably have to defer till spring. But, and also talking about what you want to do in 7th grade. 25 years ago, we had to dress up as something we wanted to be. Mine was a pharmacist. Here I am. So anyway, things change, as they say. Okay, well, moving on to business. In the consolidated account, as far as our financials are concerned, for month end of August, our total money was $48,747,936. And of that, $27,938,746 was in our general fund. So we are getting ready to go into what I call tax season. We now have the tax books. Ms. Barker signed off on those Friday before she left for vacation. So we're trying to finish up a few things that we needed to get finished before they were closed. We were unable to. So we're working with IT to get finished on our end, copy things over that need to be, and then we'll start progressing on our side to get the books ready to be printed. I am estimating at the latest, I'm saying the end of October when tax bills will be out, but I feel like it will be before that. But that's kind of given us a cushion because we're already getting calls of people wanting to know when taxes are coming out and how much their taxes are, and we don't really have a definite answer on either one right now. So moving on with taxes, for personal property, as you're aware, each year we have to adopt, or the board has to adopt, a personal property tax relief rate. Mr. Southers worked on that last week because the new program with Tyler Munis, it will calculate that PPTRA rate internally within the system instead of us having to do our own calculation on the side. So he worked through that, worked back through his program that he had designed that we've been using for many years. And currently, I think you may have a copy of the resolution in front of you. I'm not sure. Do they have that, Stephen, for PPTRA?
Did not have that. Do you have the updated number for that?
Okay. I got a number in on Friday afternoon, and the final number for personal property tax relief for 2017 is 41.05%. And that is down from 42.42 that was last year's rate. So we're looking at a decrease of 1.37%. So not a big difference.
41.05%.
41.05 is the personal property relief rate for this year, for 2017. So I would ask that the board approve that so that we can proceed on with printing our tax bills, applying this percentage as far as the funding to personal property.
I entertain a motion to approve the PPTRA reimbursement rate at 41.05%.
I'll make that motion.
Have a second. Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Horny?
Aye.
Aye.
The chair votes aye.
Thank you. And as far as business, that is all that I have, unless you gentlemen have any questions.
Anybody have any questions for Ms. Gwynn?
Okay, we have a Tyler Munis tax trainer in my office, so I'm going to move on as well so that I can get down there. They're in for 3 days, so I want to take advantage. But thank you and have a great day.
Thank you. Okay, we'll skip Ms. Barker. She's on vacation. Sheriff Dunnigan, Chief?
I just basically had some litter control statistics that the sheriff provided me. I was going to present those to you this morning. August totals, 98.7 miles were covered, 797 bags of trash was collected for a total of 23,910 pounds of trash. In September up to the 21st, I don't have any statistics after that, but 47.1 miles were covered, 695 bags collected, 20,850 pounds was been taken in so far this month. So combination of 2 months there, 45,000 pounds.
I see that you had 3 inmates for a while, then you went up to 4 inmates. Is the jail cooperating? I mean, we're getting plenty of
They're
help.
most cooperative. Just stroke of telephone call or email. Hamilton down there, Officer Hamilton's in charge of that, and he provides us anything we need. I've actually asked for 6 additional this Saturday for the tire take back. And I've got the van ready to go for that as well, the van that we use for this actually, and we can transport them all over there, keep up with them, and make sure we get all that complete. So.
That's good. And do we have an update on any of the appointments? How many scheduled appointments?
I do not have any information on how many appointments have been scheduled. It's not told me that it's full yet, but I do not know.
Okay. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Anybody have any
I've got a
questions?
question.
Yes, sir.
Are you in charge of the school education part of this? The sheriff's told us that you're running that with the DARE program. Let's see a production. What are you doing on the education side?
We have a deputy by the name of Kevin Buller who does most of our DARE program. He's certified through the state.
Uh-huh.
They have to go and attend a course to receive the certification. We had several, but as attrition has went on and other things, we've lost a few guys. So Kevin does incorporate into the program now. As far as the literature and stuff that he uses, I don't have that before me right now, but he does try to incorporate that and teach that to the children.
Well, could
Along
you
with
get
it.
him to come back and give us an update someday of what he actually does and how it seems it's working? Because they're doing a great job of picking it up, but we need to be working on it getting thrown out. And I believe through schools is the only way to do it. You're not going to change parents. Kids might, but we're not going to be able to change them. I think tickets would help, but I understand they're hard to get anybody through the court system to actually pay a penalty.
Right.
But I'd like to see what we're doing at school level and what age groups are being focused with the DARE program.
Okay, sir. I'll see if I can get that provided to you.
Like,
I have one request. If you could add Chapman Road to the pickup list, it's getting pretty, I don't know what's wrong with people. They throw full trash bags or they lose them. I don't, in boxes. And
I'll bring that to their attention.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
appreciate it, Chief.
Yes, sir.
Okay, we go right into our committee reports, Fire and Rescue Committee.
Okay. I think you have a copy on your computer, but also at hand. The Wythe County Fire and Rescue Committee met on September the 18th. It's 2017, not 2018. And we did discuss some concerns about the second due for Wythe County Rescue Squad. We're starting to have some problems with Guardian as the second due, and it's delaying time. A lot of times Guardian doesn't have a crew that they can send out. Someone would call them second due, and they can't make it. Then it's got to go to third due, and that just delays the process. So what we're proposing is to change the second due, excuse me, for Wythe County Rescue Squad to either lead mines or to retreat based on the area, and the third due would be Guardian, and that was agreeable with everybody that was there. I guess all three rescue squads were represented, and so they all agreed that that's the best thing to do.
Stephen, we need to take a vote on this.
I would recommend taking a vote on this, yes, to approve this.
Okay, it is a committee recommendation. We didn't have but 2 members on the committee that day. Mr. Hill had other business to attend to. I will require a second for this motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Horning?
Aye.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion passes. Anything else from the Fire and Rescue Committee?
No, sir.
Okay, Water Committee.
All right, the Water Committee met on September the 19th, 2017, and makes the following recommendation. To approve the leak adjustment for Gary Street of 298 President Jackson Road.
Okay, again, coming from committee, it doesn't need a second. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Dr. Hausman?
Aye.
Yeah.
The chair votes aye. Next item.
The second thing is to approve change order number 2 for the Kitchen Wilkins Nixon project.
Okay, again, come from committee, it doesn't need a second. Any discussion or questions?
Yeah, I'd like to hear what the change order's buying.
Mr. Chairman, this is the closeout change order, and it is actually a decrease of $6,635.65.
They're easy.
Yep.
Okay, any more questions or discussion? Hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Dr. Hausman?
Aye.
Yeah.
The chair votes aye. Budget Committee. You'll go ahead.
Okay. All right, the Budget Committee met on September 21st, 2017, and made the following recommendations. One was to amend and appropriate $3,500 to 1213, and you can see the breakdown that is for the treasurer's office. And again, we only had 2 members at the meeting, so there would have to be a second on that one.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any other discussion or questions? Hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Horny?
Yeah.
Aye.
The chair votes aye.
The second one is to approve Barron Springs 2C change order number 4. And that is also closeout?
It is closeout. This one is actually an increase of $5,570.90. This is the closeout where we ran out Foster Falls Road with the additional funds that were left, and the approval of this one to close out.
Okay, coming from committee, there wasn't 2 members. We will need a second.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion or questions?
Stephen, is that a closeout of all the Barron Springs projects?
I asked Bill that exact question the other day, and I believe the answer is yes. There were basically 4 different contracts on that, and I think this closes out the last one, and we're done with all those. And I've had Bill figuring all the money to come back to the Water Committee for any small amounts of money left anywhere to close those projects out in town.
But that's the Barron Springs section only,
Well,
and the additions.
correct. This is basically one of the part that ran the 94, Route 100, and the additions out through there.
All right, but now the Jackson is not closed out, is it?
Correct. It is not.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any more questions or discussion? Hearing none, do a roll call vote. Dr. Hausman?
Aye.
The chair votes aye.
Third thing, to amend and appropriate $1,747 for payment to VRS for the line of duty act administration costs. This is something that was thrust upon us by the state.
Okay, again, coming from committee, we didn't have 2 members. It will need a second.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Horning?
Yeah.
All right.
Aye.
The chair votes aye.
And the last one, to amend and appropriate $250 to 8101 in order to add the planning commission members to the county email. It's basically like we have a county email address. It would be given the planning commission members an email address to, which, makes sense, but there is some licensing agreements that have to be included, and it will cost us $250.
Okay, again, coming from committee, with just 2 members, we'll need a second.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion or questions?
Question. will that add them to our current email system, or will it be a standalone?
Add them to our current email system.
All right. What does that do in general publication? You still have to send it to them, or will they be involved with the board's general email? Like if you send out something to the board, is it going to automatically go to the planning commission and vice versa?
No, it's just establishing an account on our email server and giving them the individual email accounts. As you all know, we've recently had several Freedom of Information Act requests for any business conducted by email. Any Freedom of Information Act that comes into a planning commission member now currently would be trying to get information off of their individual servers or individual accounts. This puts them back onto our account. Now, you all will have those addresses. You can share anything with them. If anything that needs to go to both of them, we can certainly share with both.
But they're going to be independent in the server. They're not going to be homogenized.
No, they'll have different, just like ours is like, mine is like supervisor _ Blacklick.
Right.
I'm assuming this would be something like planning commission or PC _ Blacklick.
Well,
So
one of the reasons for that is these searches.
Yes.
It just adds more soup to search. If you add 7 more people or 8 more, whatever, it's going to, probably the staff and everything will be on that one too. So do you pay a service fee for them, or do you have one for each member?
Well, David just indicated the number of licenses that we have. We've had a bunch of open licenses, and just to add additional license to our server for these members, that's the cost that it would be to add this.
Okay.
Is that a one-time cost or are we? Okay. Any more questions, discussion? Hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Horny?
Aye.
Aye. The chair votes aye. Anything else from the budget committee? Okay, moving right on, county administrator. Mr.
Thank you,
Barrett.
Mr. Chairman. The first item you have there is a Red Ridge agreement for the second water tank. Mr. Farthing has drafted this agreement. This is, as you all know, we've got the $1.25 million loan for the Red Ridge tank to benefit the New River Regional Water Authority. In general, this says it's on our property. They will be paying us the debt service associated with that. Would recommend this be adopted.
I entertain a motion to approve.
make that motion.
Have a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion or questions? Hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Dr. Hausman?
Aye.
The chair votes aye. Next item.
Recently, we did a small vacation of right-of-ways in Max Meadows. We now have a second request for a vacation of right-of-ways, primarily by the Dickens. There are a few other people that are also requesting vacation of right-of-ways surrounding that area. We need to establish a date for a public hearing to do this. Did allow the county attorney time to draft the ordinance that goes with this. But you can see on page 64 of your package, there's a large area of blue. The gentleman intends to vacate all of these right-of-ways and then vacate all the property lines and make it one large tract of property up in there. I think the October meeting is probably too soon to set this forward to give time for everything. Night meeting, so you may want to set it for the November night meeting. Give time to get everything put together.
That also includes notifying all adjacent landowners by mail?
Yes.
Okay.
And most of the adjacent landowners that are there have actually signed the agreement, or signed the request on page 63 for vacating the property.
So our board meeting will be on Wednesday the 15th.
Yes, sir.
That's because of the VACO conference. Is it all right with everybody if we set the public hearing for that date?
It's my birthday, but that's all right.
Huh?
I said it's my birthday, but that's okay.
You want a proclamation?
Hey, I sit,
No, but if you all will sing, I appreciate it.
I sit through budget every year for mine, so you can sit through the public hearing.
Okay, we'll set the public hearing for November the 15th at 7 PM. Your next item,
That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
county attorney's report.
I do not have anything to report at this time.
Okay. Board of Supervisors. Black Lake District,
Nothing.
nothing. West Whipple,
Nothing at this time.
East Whipple's not here. Fort Chiswell District.
Yeah, the job is done at Millers Creek. The state has started on Ramsford Road on the Brick Church end at 77 and intend to proceed 3/4 of a mile, which will put them in an easterly direction beyond Bealston Road. And that's being funded by the high occupancy rural road fund that we were awarded statewide. And Mr. Russell indicated they'll apply for another segment of that next year, and it's a state award, so you don't know whether you'll get it or not. If it doesn't happen, it'd fall back under the 6-year plan, and its turn would come when it comes. One of the other things happened in the district, Stevens handled it well because he got a complaint. The trash people picked up Millers Creek Road. It's cleaner than it's ever been. And then VDOT was slower than normal of picking up orange bags. So one of our citizens picked them up, and the guy's doing a good job, went all the way through the National Forest and picked up all the trash. And there's a road there, so they picked it up. And then VDOT don't want to pick up trash in the National Forest. And what I'd like for us to talk about, whatever committee Stephen wants to put it to, is if we continue to do that and work out some way to pick that trash up. That's a tourist attraction, although the road's in terrible shape. Hunters, hikers, all people use that road. And it just looks a lot better if we pick the trash up a couple of times a year. But it's resolved now, but we need to put that to some committee to come up with some kind of resolution about keeping it clean.
That in the Building and Grounds Committee.
Okay. That's it.
Lead mines,
Nothing.
nothing in the lead mines. Speedwell District.
Nothing at this time.
Okay, at large, I will inform the board that the Tobacco Commission did meet last week, and we did get $250,000 for the Expo Center. Max Meadows had a Heritage Day Saturday. I feel it was a big success. We had a lot of people there. A lot of the people turned out to the event. I think it's the biggest one that they've had so far. We had a tent set up for the county's economic development. We had a lot of interest and a lot of positive response, especially towards the Apex Center. And I was well pleased. And it turned out good. And a lot of thanks needs to go to Mr. Held that puts on and organizes this event every year and for the Ruitons, and it's done well in Max Meadows. Other than that, I give my road assignment to the chief. Asked if Chapman Road be picked up, and we did have a complaint in the Black Lake District on New Bethel Road. Was it New Bethel Road? Wasn't it?
Yeah.
And about the crew being moved, the Whipple crew being moved back to the Whipple District, and I think that was explained. I've tried to get a hold of Miss Grubb, but I haven't been successfully getting a hold of Miss Grubb, and hopefully she's got the explanation that when money come available for Major Graham Road to the high volume road fund, that the Whittle crew went back to their area to take care of that. And the Speeble District crew is still working on the roads, and it will be taken care of in the order that it is in that district.
Well, and it's still planning on being done this fiscal
Yeah,
year,
this
not this
fiscal
calendar
year.
year, but fiscal year.
Fiscal year. That doesn't end until June.
I have a lot of interface with VDOT. Not all of it's good, but that spring flood, we actually had Wythe County crews go to Grayson County. That set everything back. And then they moved the crew from east part of the county to the west part of the county. And Ms. Grubb, that delayed not only the money, because the money was in flux there was money, but because of the new money, they decided to play some shell games with it. But that job didn't get started at Grimm's Forge, and now it's not going to get finished either. So the whole thing really started last spring when they had to move their skeleton crews, because they really don't have a lot of people.
No.
And they moved them to Grayson County, which, because of landslides and pipe washouts, was a good management thing for the residency. But it skewed everything from what was supposed to happen, so maybe she could understand that.
Mr. Chairman, if I might, while you're all on VDOT, the fall transportation meeting that was postponed in Wythe a couple weeks ago has been rescheduled for Tuesday, October 17th. And this time it's in the Bristol VDOT office, so we only have to go to Bristol, we don't have to go to Wythe. So, Tuesday, October 17th, 4 p.m.
Will you send us out an email on that? Okay, that's all I have to report. Okay, we'll move into our new business consent calendar. We have a new consent calendar that's been passed out. That's on your workstations here. Entertain a motion to approve the consent calendar.
I make a motion we approve the consent calendar. Consent calendar is presented with the deletion of H under personnel.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion or questions? Hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Dr. Hausman?
Aye.
Yeah.
And Chair votes aye. Next item is Mount Rogers Alcohol Safety Action Program Board appointment. And I take it that's I am willing to continue serving on that board. Yeah.
And they requested a resolution that Keith Dunnigan be appointed as a member of this alcohol board. They say I was a member, but they needed a resolution.
Oh,
to be
it's-
on there also.
That's,
And, you've been on there as well.
Yeah.
So,
So I'm not up, it's Keith that's up.
I think they're wanting clarification on Keith's appointment is what they're indicating to us.
Okay, all right.
We may come
And they
back
want a
and talk to
resolution?
them, and we may have to do a resolution with you at the next meeting, but we'll confirm that with you.
Okay,
I'll make a motion, we accept that resolution.
have a second? Second. Any discussion, questions? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, Mountain Rogers Community Service Board performance contract. Ms. Beamer.
Took a while to get to you, didn't it?
Yeah, we'll put it in his mailbox. Thank you.
I know you've already had a long meeting, but thank you for the opportunity for Mount Rogers to come before you this morning. I'm Sarah Beamer, the Director of Finance and Administrative Services. And thanks to Wythe County, as always, for your continuing financial support and for this opportunity to highlight our performance contract. I took a few minutes last night to look at your board packet, only to realize that half of your packet is actually our performance contract. Rest assured, I'm not going to go through that whole thing, but you do have it. So what I've handed to you this morning are just a couple of excerpts that I do want to spend a little bit of time highlighting. Let me review what's in your packet, and then I'll talk about those items a bit later. You'll see the cover letter that we sent to Mr. Bayer with the performance contract. The second item in here in the kind of gray pages is just a summary of the performance contract that we included with the letter, and then we included a flash drive with the whole contract, which is now included in your packets. But also what's included are just two succinct pages from the performance contract that I'll review. A few contextual comments first, though, about Mount Rogers. You know who we are, of course, founded back in the 1970s through legislation that put into place the Community Services Board structure to improve the quality of life for individuals with mental, physical, and substance use intervention needs. We do that at Mount Rogers through our 4 divisions: adult behavioral health, our ID services, our youth and family services, and our IDCs. Our services, of course, include mental health, intellectual disability services, substance use services, emergency services, early intervention, and prevention services. For every dollar of direct local funding that we receive, we generate nearly 89 additional dollars through other revenue sources. And while we serve 6 localities, I will remind you that over 25% of our staff, that's nearly 300, including their compensation and such, are Wythe County citizens. And 25% of our vendors are Wythe County vendors. And we coincidentally provide about 25% of our services to the citizens of Wythe County. So certainly Wythe County is an integral part of who we are. So now to our performance contract and the items in your packet. Each CSB contracts with the Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Services on an annual basis through the Department's Office of Community Contracting. So that's what this performance contract is. It's our annual contract to govern our services. It serves as the basis for the state funding that we receive. It establishes service objectives, outcome measures, and state and federal statutory and regulatory compliance items. So just briefly on the gray pages, I'll highlight a couple of items. Included in our performance contract are total expenditures of just under $46 million. Just a side note for you, our performance contract does not include the manufacturing operations at our IDCs. It does include our day support services there, but those are carved out and don't fall under the auspices of the department. Our community service program areas are listed here and the amount of expenditures for each. You can read the $28 million for mental health, $14 million for developmental services, just under $2 million for substance abuse services, almost $2.5 million for emergency services, and then another $177,000 for various ancillary services, including assessments and such. And then the rest of the gray pages just enumerate for you the sections of the performance contract. So what the performance contract is doing is laying out responsibilities for us as a Community Services Board, the Virginia Department of Behavioral Health, and then it also addresses various requirements from the state, the Department of Behavioral Health. We have federal requirements. We do receive, as passed through the department, some federal funds, state and federal requirements regarding anti-discrimination, and then any special procedures and requirements that community services boards must adhere to. So with that, the last item in your packet, labeled at the bottom, pages AF1 and AF2, is really the financial summary from the performance contract. And you'll see some colors on this page. I'll just highlight a few amounts for you. The transfer fees in and out, you'll see that we're able to pull $831,000 from our mental health services, which is able to generate some surplus funds to then offset the deficits that we have in developmental services and substance abuse services, the $154,000 and the $677,000. I'll also point out the other funds amount that you'll see in developmental services, the $855,861, actually represents, much of that amount represents monies that we will pull from our production activities at the IDCs to further subsidize our programmatic budget, our developmental services budget specifically. So without that manufacturing subsidy that we receive, we would be hard-pressed to continue some of the programming that we do. The state retained earnings, the $641,784, actually represents monies that we were given for special purpose programming that we will be carrying forward from the prior fiscal year into the new fiscal year. Some of those amounts, for example, include the DAP funds, or discharge assistance programming that we do, as well as some crisis response and child psychiatry funds. And then at the very bottom, you'll see the local match computation. I usually come before you during your budget sessions every year and make the request for our 10% match. We spread that 10% match, as you might recall, across all 6 localities that we serve, but still are unable to get to that 10% requirement that we have. You see the 6.12% that we have projected for fiscal 2018. And just for your purposes, I included in gray just some comparative information from prior periods. Do know that because we don't achieve the 10% match, we are required to request a waiver from the department, which we do, and we have been granted that waiver. And the kinds of information that we provide in requesting that waiver are certainly looking at our economics, poverty rates and education rates and those sorts of things. And so the state agrees that because of the circumstances in our locales, for now, it's okay that we're not achieving that 10% match from our localities. I will just share with you, as I believe I did in the spring, the department and the state are looking ever more thoroughly at that requirement and asking questions about it. So you may continue to hear more from us on that as well. And then the last comment I'll make is the box for CSB administrative expenses. We are projected to have 7.11% of our budget be administrative costs next year, which is fairly lean, and you can see that we've ratcheted that down in the comparative information that we've shown, as we do try to be as lean as we can be and point as many of our resources as possible to the direct care services that we provide. Mount Rogers is considered to be what's called a multi-jurisdictional entity in serving the various locales. We do ask each of the counties and the cities served by the board to review and approve our performance contract. Therefore, we respectfully request your consideration and approval of our fiscal 18 performance contract.
Thank you, Ms. Beamer. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve this performance contract.
Have a second.
Second.
Have a motion, second. Any question or discussion?
I have one based on my ignorance. What falls under that category of emergency services?
A couple of things. Certainly our crisis counselors. So we have a staff of crisis counselors that are first call in the case particularly of like a mental health crisis. And so we take that call and we try to engage with that individual or that family where they are. Very often that service might occur in a hospital emergency room, for example. We might be called to an emergency room. On occasion, we're out and about at the scene of a tragedy, for example. We recently, our emergency services staff counseled with law enforcement in, I think it was the Galax area where maybe the deputy was killed in a car accident, so we'll get called in to counsel with tragedies. A part of our programming, too, also now includes, we have a CIT assessment site at Twin County at the Galax Hospital that's been funded by the state, where on site, we actually have, if you will, kind of a crisis emergency suite where we're able to encounter those folks, directly at the hospital in not just an emergency room, but a crisis center for that.
The reason I ask you, we're facing more and more of a crisis for the rescue squads. Is there any vehicle through Mount Rogers and grants or otherwise, that although they're 501c3s here in Wythe County, they're operated individually, is there any hope for getting any funding to help them operate and meet their payroll?
We're not established to provide emergency transportation services. I certainly can keep my ears and eyes open and see.
Let's just stop right there.
Yes, sir.
Our loser is the services they provide in the home and don't get paid to transport. If they go out and provide service at the home and they don't transport them, that's a free call that they don't get paid for.
But I think Mount Rogers is more geared toward mental health and substance abuse.
Counseling.
Okay, well, I just looked at what it said. It said emergency services.
Well, emergency services is, just as Ms. Beamer said, I used to be one of the crisis counselors. And emergency services is emergencies, if it's mental health, if it's drugs, if it's alcohol, and that sort of thing.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions? Hear none, we'll do a roll call vote. Dr. Hausman?
Aye.
And chair votes aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Beamer.
While Ms. Beamer is here, I will just mention that she is working, as you all are familiar, I've emailed all of you all where there was a debt of an old payment. They have researched it as something that was paid off by Mount Rogers 15 years ago, 14 years ago, 2002, 2003. For some reason, it's been tickled in the file by the feds, and right now they did have us on a withholding of transferring funds to the county. Ms. Beamer's worked with them and got that released while they researched the matter at that point in time, and hopefully we can get it resolved. It appears they have all the documentation in line to show that they did everything they were supposed to do. We've just got to get the Small Business Administration to accept those findings and copies of certificates of satisfaction of payment of debt and getting all that released. But I appreciate them working with us on that, and Sheriff's Office for being patient with us during that time frame, and Mount Rogers has offered to make payment to the Sheriff's Office as need be for the money that's been withheld, and the Sheriff's Office indicates that they're fine right now as long as they understand the issue's been resolved. So we hope to have that cleared up as quickly as we can get through federal bureaucracy. Is that a fair assessment?
Very good summary. Thank you.
And thank you for that, Ms. Beamer. Next item on our agenda is FY18 second quarter appropriations. I entertain a motion to approve. Have a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any questions or discussion? Hear none, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Horny?
Aye.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Mr. Byers, anything under other?
Mr. Chairman, I do not have anything under other business.
Does any board member have anything to bring before the board at this time? Hear none, I declare us adjourned.